My name's Justin Merrill, and I'm here with.
Ken Barnhart.
Nice to meet you, Ken. Thanks for having a talk with us. Please tell me about your story. You are a veteran from Vietnam.
I am, yeah. 100% disabled veteran from Vietnam, which has only been recently restored. 1970, they pronounced me dead. They put me in a body bag. 1971, they said I'd never walk again. 1977, I sent back my entire disability and all my medals when Mr. Carter gave amnesty. 2 years ago, I started an act against the government. They've reinstated my pension, and they figured I must have been nuts to give up that pension, so they gave me post-traumatic stress as well. So now I'm 100%. The best thing they did for me is make me see a psychologist, and a young lady pulled a story out of me that I never mentioned for over 40 years. And today I'm here, and I said goodbye to 3 friends that I blame myself for their death for all those years. And a very emotional day, and now it's behind me, and I think life is going to get better. It's amazing. For those who don't believe in the VA, believe me, it's changed. 30 years ago, I happened to hit a doctor because he laughed at me when I told him what my problems were. And then, of course, now I go to the VA in Atlanta, Georgia, and people actually thank me for their service, for my service, and it's a different. Those guys still out there fighting for it need to keep fighting because it's getting better. And us Vietnam vets are hoping that these young guys and gals coming back today, get the help now instead of 40 years from now. That's our big dream. And go ahead.
That's an amazing story, Ken. Did you get back pay for the time? No? Okay.
$500,000 in back pay that's why they gave me post-traumatic stress. I knew I was nuts to give that up, you know?
Coming back from Vietnam, how was your reception personally?
I spoke not one word of Vietnam for the first 10 years I was out of the hospital. Not once. I was married to my wife 5 years before she knew I was a veteran. It was just easier not to let anybody know that you were a Vietnam vet because you never knew how they were going to react. And how I dealt with it by drinking 2 quarts of whiskey a day every day for 10 years. I put 250,000 miles on a Harley Davidson in 3.5 years, and quite a wild man. And now I've actually, after all these years, got partially sane again, which is unbelievable.
So obviously war takes a toll both on the mind and the body. Do you think that today's veterans are receiving the treatment they need?
I'm not sure they're getting what they need, but I think they're getting more than I got, which is a plus. And I'm hoping all those who can make a stand and try to make sure that they do get what they need. I have a tattoo that I just had put on, and it says, and I was a Ranger, that's why the beret instead of a helmet. But yeah, those in this country, I think, have gotten to where they don't blame the soldiers so much anymore. They hate the wars that are going on, but they still stand behind the soldier. I hope they continue to stand behind the soldier when they come home so that they can get some help. Because believe me, 40 years is a long time to wait for peace to come inside your body. And it doesn't matter when it comes, it's phenomenal. But yeah.
Are you familiar with the coming budget cuts due to the sequestration, due to the failure of the super committee to come to a resolution, and how that'll fall disproportionately on the VA versus the actual operating DoD budget?
Yes, I've read about it. Of course, being a member of Disabled American Vets, they keep us pretty well informed on budgets, and it's discouraging. It really is discouraging. And I think now that the gentleman who's a disabled vet, and I can't even tell you what his title is, but I've seen a lot happen in the VA since he's been in charge of a lot of it. And I don't know what we're going to do to get the budget up there, but you know, I'm a disabled vet, don't have much money, but I sure as hell would be willing to pay more taxes if I knew it went to somebody that needed help. But I don't think I need to vote for anybody who's going to give themselves a raise in Congress or I lost everything I worked for 2 years ago because of the crunch in construction, and I'm still going. Let some of them suckers work a little harder.
You mentioned that veterans are correctly not blamed for the war as they were in Vietnam so much, right? That citizens don't blame the veterans, they blame the administration. What's your reaction to the anti-war movement basically going away once Obama was elected, and how there's less attention to war, and it's kind of both the veterans and the wars seem to be kind of forgotten in the public eye?
That's why a day like today happens. Rolling Thunder's been going on since '88, and it's a demonstration to keep the POWs and MIAs in the government limelight, because anything when it's not out in the public gets forgotten, gets swept under the rug. I'm sorry there's not more demonstrating, and I'm willing to stand up, and this is something I wouldn't have done 3 years ago. But I really now feel that it's needed for all of us to speak up and speak out, not against the government, because I still am a firm believer. It says love it or leave it. I believe we need to make sure that we elect the right people, and when people make us promises they don't keep, get them the hell out of government. We've got a lot of things that still need to be straightened out, and a big one is our vet, what we need to do to take care of them, and anything that drops the budget in that department, it's sinful. It's just sinful. We from the beginning of time have relied on the person who volunteers his time and is willing to sacrifice his life for a cause, and we're not the least bit afraid to ask him to do it. But now many are afraid to pay for helping them after it's been done, and we're Americans, for Christ's sakes. I mean, what more do you want? You know, it's the best country in the world. We've got more freedom than anybody in the world. You can stand here and say, I don't care for the President of the United States. I don't care for his policy. Not any other country you can do that crap without getting your head lopped. But it's time that more people stand together and say, we're not going to stand for letting the vet take a back seat. It's time that we thank them for what they did, and we stand behind what we asked them to do. And I'm sorry, if you're a peace-love lover and you don't think there should be war, look at history. It's happened since the beginning of man. It's always going to happen. So when we're involved, let's at least take care of those who fought in it or worked in it, even if they didn't fight it. A veteran is a veteran, and when they need, especially if they ask for help, don't say, well, it'll be 3 months before we can see you. Say, oh, can I take you over to this room right now and we'll get somebody in here to talk to you? I know it's almost impossible, but what the hell? They thought, a lot of things are impossible.
So if we do accept that government would be a necessary evil, do you think that philosophically it would be a contradiction to give the government a monopoly on violence and expect them to behave well?
A monopoly on violence?
Yes, the monopoly to conduct wars, whether they're justified or not. Do you think that history has shown that they've used that power and that discretion appropriately?
Well, there's many mixed feelings about that. It's just like I spent 2.5 years in Vietnam, and by the time I went, of course, at 18 years old, and I volunteered for the military because it was a fight against communism. When I was in high school, we hid under desks, and we knew that Russia was going to drop the big one on us. And when Vietnam was going on, it was a spread of communism, and it was getting closer to us, and we didn't want it. I think we have to stop being the world's police force. Where we're involved with right now, they have fought since the beginning of time. Afghanistan, Iraq, if they couldn't fight an enemy from another country, they fought amongst themselves. It's just history. I think we have to study things a lot farther. But when it comes time to do it, I think the military needs the right to fight its hardest and win the objective and get it over with. and don't drag them out for years and years and years. Just like Vietnam. Vietnam could have been over in 6 months. And it's when politics is, instead of letting generals run the war, the politicians have to run it. And I'm sorry, there's a lot of them up there who don't have any idea what the military is about. And I think they need to allow the people who are in that job to make the decisions.
One last question, Ken. What does liberty or freedom mean to you, and what brings you here to Rolling Thunder?
Again, Rolling Thunder to me, I've been here 5 times, and I've never been able to put my hand on 3 men. I carried 2 out of the jungle, and another fella carried 1. And I just needed it for closure. And I am now as close to closure in the Vietnam War than I've ever been in over 40 years. And liberty is my right to stand here and tell you to go pound salt if I feel like it. And whether you believe in whatever I say or not, hopefully you're willing to listen, but I have the right to say it. I have 2 grandsons. I hope they still have the right to say what's on their mind when they're 60-some years old, like me, you know. And as I said, it's still the greatest country in the world. We get off track now and then. We get too many people thinking about selfish things rather than one goal, and that is freedom and liberty. And too many people today take advantage of it and take it for granted. And I'm not saying it's just non-veterans. I'm not saying, I mean, it's just life has gotten so fast, we don't take time to think what a wonderful place we live in and what rights we have. And I think if more people did that, a lot of them sure as hell wouldn't sit home on election day. They'd make a decision. Right now, it's the only thing a person has that guarantees he's making his voice heard. Politicians we have up for election this year, whether you're Democrat or Republican, I don't think any of them are worth the crap. But you got to take the less of the evils and hope for the best. And instead of, what did Kennedy say? Not ask what you can do or what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. I think more of us have to think along that line. And have I lied long enough?
I want to thank you for your time and your sacrifice and your service for our country. It's a wonderful story. I'm glad that you've had the opportunity to finally heal those wounds and return to a functional life.
Thank you. Have a good day.